Hi, I'm Dr. Stan Steindl. Welcome to Compassion in a T-shirt. Today's episode is a little different. I wanted to take a moment to honour someone whose music didn't just shape an era, but reached something much deeper into the emotional lives of millions of people, myself included. Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys has died. And while so many tributes will rightly call him a genius, and he absolutely was, I'd like to offer another word, compassionate. Because for me, Brian Wilson's music wasn't just art or entertainment, it was a companion. It was comfort. And in some strange but beautiful way, it was a kind of caring. You see, I've listened to the Beach Boys my whole life. I grew up a surfer on the coast of South East Queensland. My friends and I would drive up and down the coastline with boards on the roof and the Beach Boys on the car tape deck. Always on the car tape deck. From Snapper to Noosa, they were the soundtrack to our teenage lives. We'd sit around the campfire at night, a little sunburnt, singing Barbara Ann in harmonies. Usually a bit off key, but always with full and happy hearts. Surf, cars, the girls on the beach, we lived it. Or at least imagined it, while their music played on. Even though I came of age in the 1980s, and yes, I loved the Beatles too, the Beach Boys felt timeless, joyful, evocative, and as I've come to appreciate more and more, deeply emotional. Because while many people associate the Beach Boys with surf, fun, and summer, Brian Wilson was quietly writing something else, something tender, something vulnerable, something compassionate. In 1965, Brian stopped touring. While the rest of the band took the stage, he stayed home. But not to rest, he stayed home to create. And what he created was Pet Sounds. That album, still to this day, feels like a letter to humanity. It's so much more than just a great record. It's intimate, aching, and emotionally brave. Brian was only 23. And yet the songs speak with the wisdom and fragility of someone who has already lived many lives. Take You Still Believe in Me. It's not a typical love song. It's about guilt, about not being the person someone hoped you'd be, and hoping they'll love you anyway, and they do. To know that you believe me is all I need. There's something incredibly raw and human in that. Not performative, just real. And then there's Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder, a song that doesn't ask anything of you. It's like an oral embrace, a moment of quiet, gentle presence. Listen to my heartbeat. That's all it says. No judgment, no fixing, just being there. That, to me, is compassion. The capacity to be with suffering, not to avoid it, not to push it away, not to fix it, but to simply stay and offer safeness. And it feels like Brian is singing it to me. In compassion-focused therapy, we often talk about 3 flows of compassion. The compassion we give to others, the compassion we receive from others, and the compassion we offer ourselves. Brian Wilson gave outwardly. His music was an act of compassion. He wrote to soothe, to understand, to connect. He created music that could wrap around you in your loneliest moments. But receiving compassion, especially from others, that was harder. Brian struggled with depression, with psychosis, with voices, with panic. He was diagnosed later with schizoaffective disorder. He experienced trauma at the hands of his father, and later he was manipulated and controlled by people who should have been protecting him. And still he made music. He returned to the piano, to the studio, to that small, fragile space where he could create something beautiful and safe. And I wonder now, maybe that was his own quiet act of self-compassion. Maybe writing, arranging, layering those harmonies. Maybe that was how he soothed himself. Not in words, not in the way we often talk about self-compassion, but in the language he knew best, music. In those moments, perhaps Brian wasn't just giving to others, he was giving to himself, offering himself a little safeness, a little beauty, a little mercy. In I Just Wasn't Made for These Times, he sings, "Sometimes I feel very sad." And it's not a lament for effect, it's an admission, a whisper. And then the harmonies swell, like friends entering the room, not to cheer him up, but just to be there with him. That's his gift. His music doesn't demand anything. It doesn't tell you to feel better. It simply says, "I understand." It's a quality that feels especially present in Pet Sounds, which, in contrast to albums like Surf and Safari or Endless Summer, isn't about the sun-soaked highs of life, but the gentle and painful truths that lie beneath. Don't get me wrong, Surf and Safari and Endless Summer are still part of the story, and I love them. I still do. It brings back all those bright, beachy anthems that first made the Beach Boys famous. That was the world we tried to live as teenagers. But while Surf and Safari captured the ideal, Pet Sounds revealed the real. As a teenager, I didn't fully understand the difference, but now looking back, I see it clearly. Surfing Safari and Endless Summer were the dream. Pet Sounds was the soul. In the middle of it all, there's Brian Wilson, this deeply sensitive, musically gifted human being, trying to make sense of it all, trying to turn the pain into beauty, trying to find and share love and mercy. That's what he called the song he used to end his solo concerts with. Love and mercy. Love and mercy, that's what you need tonight. Love and mercy to you and your friends tonight. He didn't say goodbye at the end of the concert with a bang. He offered a blessing, and maybe we can do the same. Brian Wilson's legacy will always include surf music, tight harmonies, and the sunshine sound of the 60s. But for me and for many, it also includes something else. A quiet, consistent invitation to feel, to open, to soften, to offer compassion even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I'm grateful I grew up listening to Brian's music. And I'm grateful it stuck with me into adulthood, but now through a different lens. And I'm grateful for the man who created it all, who struggled so much, and yet gave so much. Thank you, Brian, for the music, for the tenderness, for the love, and for the mercy. And thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Stan Steindl, and this has been Compassion in a T-shirt.